Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our Township website. Please stand to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Prukas? Here. Deputy Mayor Sacamandi?
Here.
Mr. Stoller?
Present.
Mayor Romano?
Here. I would like to make a motion to revise the agenda to pull Resolution 24-210, awarding the professional service contract to MWW.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Or is that a roll call? Roll call?
You go with all in favor, Mayor.
Oh, no, I have roll call.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prukas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sacamandi?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the August 13th, 2024 regular Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the August 13th, 2024 special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we have some promotions. So we're going to have Chief Gilfetter first.
Evening, everyone. Thank everyone for coming for our police promotions tonight. I'd like to thank the Township Committee, the Mayor, and Mr. McDonald for allowing us to make these promotions tonight. First, we're going to have two promotions for Sergeant. First, we're going to have Officer Zahn. He graduated from Old Bridge High School in 2003, enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 2003, and served for 4 years until 2007. One of the deployments was to Fallujah, where he earned a Combat Action Ribbon. He attended Union County College from 2008 to 2011, and was hired by the Union County Sheriff's Office in 2012 and attended the John Stamler Police Academy. He served as a sheriff's officer until 2014 and was hired by the Milburn Police Department in 2014 and assigned to the Patrol Division. Officer Zahn is accompanied by his wife, Melanie. Then we have Lester Manuag. He graduated from Cranford High in 2005 after attending 1 year at New Jersey City University. Lester enlisted in the New Jersey Army National Guard. Within the New Jersey National Guard, he deployed to New Mexico and the Mexico border to assist with Border Patrol and Operation Jumpstart. He then deployed to Iraq in 2008 for Operation Iraqi Freedom. After returning home, Lester completed his college education and received his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He then moved to Maryland, where he began his law enforcement career with Baltimore City Police Department. In 2014, he joined Milburn Police, attending Essex County Police Academy. He has been with the Milburn Police Department for 10 years. He's a member of the Emergency Service Unit, the Honor Guard, and Drone Unit. He has also served as a field training officer since 2016. And with him tonight is his wife, Melody, sons Dominic, Zachary, parents, 2 sisters, brother-in-law, and nieces. Then we have 2 sergeants being promoted to lieutenant. First, we have Sergeant Delgado. He graduated from Queen of Peace High School in 2001. In 2001 to 2004, attended the Essex County College. In 2007, he was hired by the North Police Department as a traffic control officer. And then 2008 to 2009, an animal control officer in Montclair. In 2009, he attended the Police Academy and was hired by the North Police Department and then was laid off, unfortunately. In 2012, he became a patrol officer with the Milburn Police Department in the Patrol Division to 2015, and then he moved to the Detective Bureau, and he's our Humane Law Enforcement Officer. 2020 to 2024, he became a patrol sergeant assigned to the Patrol Division, and he's also part of our Candidate Investigation Unit and Internal Affairs Unit. The borough tonight is his wife, Maria, children Justin, Leanne, and Lucas. For lieutenant, we have Lieutenant Kaiser. He He resides in Rockaway, New Jersey. He graduated from Morris Hills High School. He attended County College of Morris and Kane University and earned an associate's degree in criminal justice. He was hired by the Millville Police Department in 2001 as part of a patrol division. He's a member of the Crash Investigation Unit, ESU team member, instructor for CPR and defibrillator, field training officer, firearms instructor, promoted sergeant in 2016 and assigned to patrol. With him today is his sister Jill, brother-in-law, and niece. And we have Lieutenant Del Russo being promoted to captain. Lieutenant Del Russo lives in Mount Olive. He's employed with the Millville Police Department for 19 years. Before becoming a police officer, he served in the United States Marine Corps from 2001 to 2009, where he was deployed to Kuwait and Iraq in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. For his actions in Iraq, he was awarded several awards and medals, including the Marine Commendation Medal. After the military, he studied sociology and criminal justice at Centenary College. During his time with the Millville Police Department, he was a patrol officer for approximately 5 years before being assigned to the Detective Bureau for approximately 5 years. One of the years he was spent working with the Essex County Prosecutor's Viper Unit. In 2015, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and in 2022, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. During his career, he has served in the Detective Bureau, Patrol Division, as well as the Honor Guard and Emergency Service Unit as an officer and supervisor. With Lieutenant DeRusso, he has his wife, Michelle, children, Maddie, Grant, Natalie, and Juliana, and his mother and brothers.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-202, which confirms the promotions?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prufus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Absolutely.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Gotti will now issue the oath of office to the new officials, to all the officials.
Sergeants, step forward.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lester Janet,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Sergeant
the duties of Sergeant
of the Melbourne Township Police Department
of the Millville Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to my best ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
The lieutenants would step forward.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Robert Kaiser,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Lieutenant
the duties of Lieutenant
of the Milburn Township Police Department
of the Milburn Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Then if you step forward.
I state your name.
I, Andrew Del Russo,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Captain
the duties of Captain
of the Milburn Township Police
of the
Department
Milburn Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay, Chief Echeverria?
Good evening, Mayor Romano, Deputy Mayor Sacamandi, Township Committee members, Alex, Timothy, colleagues, friends, and family. Congratulations on your well-deserved promotions, gentlemen. I want to convey our deepest gratitude to the Township Committee and the community on the behalf of all the members of the Milburn Fire Department. It is my greatest honor and privilege to present the candidate for promotion this evening, firefighter Kevin McGuire. Firefighter Kevin McGuire is being promoted to the rank of fire captain. Kevin joined the U.S. Army after training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. He was stationed with the 1-6 Infantry in Baumholder, Germany. He deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom with his unit until April of 2003. Upon his release from the Army, he returned to the States and found a home in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. While enjoying life in the mountains of Colorado, skiing and snowboarding, he met his wife while she was on vacation from New Jersey, and that is how he finally ended up calling New Jersey home. Firefighter McGuire has been a leader in every sense of a word, dedicated himself to serving his community in various capacities. He co-manages the charity Essex Special Skaters with his wife, Captain Heidi Vanderhoof of the West Orange Fire Department, who is here with us today. His leadership among his fellow firefighters is evident, serving as the Vice President, founder, and head of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of the New Jersey State FMBA. As a firefighter, he has been instrumental in teaching fire safety at our schools, becoming a CPR instructor, joining the Urban Search and Rescue Team, and receiving the Millburn Fire Department Life Saving Award. After his promotion, Captain McGuire will be assigned as a Department Training Officer. Mayor.
May I have a motion to approve resolution 24-203, which confirms the promotion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Secondandi?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Absolutely.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Gotti will now issue the oath of office.
Repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Kevin McGuire,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Captain
the duties of Captain
of the Millburn Township Fire Department
of the Millburn Township Fire Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Let's just give just one final round of applause for the promotions for our police. And we'll take a 3-minute break. So those of you that don't wish to stay can leave. Please provide reports on the committees that you are a liaison to. Ms. Committeeman Stoller, you want to start?
Tell you how great is that? How great is that? That's the best part, one of the best parts of this job, and all the wonderful residents. Watching these guys be proud is just fantastic, and knowing them for so long. All right, pretty brief tonight. Summer doldrums, not a lot happening. Special Improvement District, Town Hall Plaza. We've completed the summer entertainment season, hosted 18 musical performances, 6 business-sponsored community events, including Tonino Cigars, which was followed by a huge rain. It was crazy. The team's working on additional events through November 4th as we've extended the timing of the Township Plaza closing. And September 10th, and then the week is off during September 10th for Oktoberfest. And then every Saturday night out through November 4th. I want to welcome Garden State Dental Design, also a sponsor of the outdoor space. Fantastic people for all your dental needs. BOE liaison, back to school today. Everybody needs to slow down and make themselves aware of all their surroundings, kids running through the streets and having a grand old time, but we don't want any accidents to happen. Update, no real update on the union discussions. We've currently met with the MAA, which is the administrators union last week, and be meeting with the MEA and mediators soon. And then the interviews for the superintendent's position are robust, and they're starting this weekend, a lot of interest. Other than that, joint fields, no new updates. Emergency dispatch, no new updates. FMAC, which is flood mitigation, no updates since the last meeting. No huge issues with the last few downpours. And then affordable housing, I'm going to defer to council. That's my report.
Committeeman Cohen?
Yeah, I'll be brief as it's been quiet. Just reminding everybody that the Arboretum's fundraising event will be on September 22nd. It's the cornhole tournament, so stop by. It'll be fun, even if you're not playing, just to watch and cheer people on. But that's it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Just one quick report. The Environmental Commission wanted me to let everyone know that they are in support of the ordinance on the agenda tonight for the bamboo ordinance. So we just wanted that to be known. Other than that, no reports.
Committeewoman Krupas?
No reports.
I don't have any either. I just wanted to comment on the kids' glow party Sunday night at Town Hall Plaza. A lot more families than were expected, and it was a great event. There were a lot of young children there, and just to note that the DJ was a 9-year-old from Wyoming school, DJ Lou Brock, and he was absolutely amazing. So it was a fun time. Okay, public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. We're just rolling right along.
Just a few reports. One is just wanted to remind everybody, as I had at the last meeting, that PSE&G, although they are done in the Washington section and in the Beechcrofts, they are going to begin work at the end of September in the Tioga, Long Hill area of town. I think communications have already gone out to those residents that are going to be impacted by that. Similar work to replace gas infrastructure, cast iron piping with plastic piping. And so just to keep an eye out for that. Everything has been restored by PSE&G with the exception of the intersection of Milburn and Spring Street, as well as Main Street. That work will be scheduled probably sometime in mid to late fall and will be done at night. We are continuing our 2024 road reconstruction projects as well. So most of the ones that are in and around the schools or that would have been impactful with the opening of school have been completed. We do have quite a few, in Short Hills and that are still being worked on, Colonial Way, Featherbed and Marywood and things like that. So just keep an eye out for that as well, and adhere to the traffic signs and detours. Just wanted to provide an update to the Township Committee that we have started the investigation that was requested and consented on by the Township Committee into the court regarding the citizen complaint from last 2 years ago, 2022 into 2023. We've engaged Michael Robertson of O'Toole and Scrivo. He will be going through that investigation. In addition, signage work. We had been requested to take a look at signage around the 9/11 memorial, particularly, I walked down to the Milburn 9/11 memorial to see with a sign designer, signs by Lynn, to look at that and see, proper location as well as how that would work. And found it very interesting that you would not know that is there if you walked by it 100 times. So this will also give us an opportunity to provide some awareness to that memorial being in Taylor Park. In addition, we are looking at some other signage throughout the town, particularly paper mill signage at the corner of Brookside and Old Short Hills Road is falling over and worn out and dilapidated. We've also been talking about signage entering into Lot 7, that so people have an understanding of what parking does take place in Lot 7, as well as what is allowed over the weekends, which can be confusing at times. So we're taking a look at a few different signs, but all by the same company, Signs by Lynn, who have done our signs previously throughout the township, the ones that you see in front of the police department and fire departments and things like that. So I just wanted to provide a quick update on that. And I believe that is all I have for now.
I have a question I should have asked you before, but I didn't. Has there been any progress on on making the draft land use documents available to the public upon request?
Yes, it was my understanding that they would be providing a file, like a place where people can go and view them if they want to. I'll follow up with that tomorrow, Committeeman Cohen, just to make sure, but it has been communicated and has been, we talked about it a couple times. But there should be a location on the website for those that are interested in it to go and find those documents that are received. But yes, that has been discussed.
Mr. Cantor.
Thank you, Mayor. So a fair share housing update. So there were 2 orders entered by the court on July 31st and August 1st. The July 31st order ordered the township to enter into development agreement with RPM along with a financial agreement. And the other order of August 1st ordered us to pay the fees to Fair Share Housing and RPM. The township is appealing both those orders. There's a few moving parts to the appeal. The first is we were ordered to do certain things in certain timeframes. We like to stay those orders, meaning that there'll be no enforcement of those orders pending the appellate division's review of the court proceedings. The township is taking the position, well, as to the stay, we filed a motion for stay relief in the state court, which is a requirement before you seek stay relief at the appellate division. The appellate division will consider a stay application unless you first make that appeal to state court. We asked the court to hear that on an expedited basis. The court denied that request, so we converted that motion to an order to show cause. So the court had to hear it on a more expedited basis. We were in court. The court denied the application for the stay, which we assumed the court would have. We then filed our appeal, and the appeal process, there's an appeal as of right in New Jersey, which is at the conclusion of any case, no matter what the case is, each party has a right to appeal. There's also something called an interlocutory appeal. And what that means is you could appeal issues throughout the pendency of the case. But in order to have that appeal, the appellate division has to allow you or grant you leave to appeal. The township believes, given the order of the court stripping the township of immunity, that basically ended our 3rd round case, because our 3rd round petition sought immunity, and the court determined that Milburn has no immunity. There's really no further action of the court or any other party other than the enforcement of orders. So we believe the township has this appeal as of right. We did file papers in the event that the appellate division were to find it to be interlocutory, that we should be heard on an interlocutory basis, given the impacts to the township. And what that basically means is during the pendency of the appeal, we don't want to be forced to do anything until the appellate division determines whether or not the trial court made the proper determination. We filed for emergent relief with the appellate division seeking immediate stay of all of the orders. One thing you need to show, there's a few things you need to show, but as far as to going on emergent relief, you need to show immediate and irreparable harm. The appellate division denied our application and that the harm to the township wouldn't be immediate, meaning, within the next 24 to 72 hours, there would be harm to the township. So the appellate division denied the request to be heard on an emergent basis, but we did file our motion for stay relief. We have to show that the harm to the township would be irreparable, meaning, if the harm would go on, there would be no way to make the township whole. And obviously removing our DPW site without a place to relocate it would irreparably harm the residents in Millburn as far as safety, welfare, access, emergency services that are provided. We argue that, and also irreparable means that your harm can't be made whole through money. So typically a court will say, well, if you're arguing over money, if one person pays the other person or one party pays the other party, if it turned out to be wrong, the other party just pays the other party back. We're making the argument that financial harm to the township of Millburn is irreparable because every dollar spent, there's no party to seek any relief from. So every dollar spent, there's no party to go after. So we also believe the financial harm to the township is irreparable. You also need to show a likelihood of success in the merits. These papers are filed, so they're public. We believe there's several aspects in which we'll be successful in the appellate division. We argue that the judge should have recused herself for the appearance of impropriety. That's based on the comments that she made early on that she had predetermined the case. If a judge predetermines the case and we don't have to show impropriety, we have to show an appearance of impropriety. We believe that we showed that. We believe the judge erred in not recusing herself. We also argue that when townships are making decisions, the court is supposed to give that township deference as a municipality as to its judgment. And there's a strong showing in order for someone to find that a township acted in bad faith. We don't think that the standard was met and the court applied the proper legal standard to find that the township member acted in bad faith. We also make some contract arguments that we were found to have breached deadlines that were years old. And at that point, we believe that all parties had agreed to extend deadlines almost indefinitely, and that to arbitrarily enforce deadlines late is reversible error, and the court didn't follow basic contract law in New Jersey. We also think there was a reversible error in allowing RPM, the developer, to participate in the process when the court ordered that RPM should not have participated. We believe that the special master relied heavily on RPM's report, and that was, again, reversible error. We also make an argument regarding when we repealed the redevelopment, that land no longer qualifies as a redevelopment zone, and the court can't force us to now redesignate it. So those are some of the arguments. We believe we have a high likelihood of success on those arguments at the appellate division if the appellate court hears it. Again, first, the appellate division has to either determine that we have the right to appeal as of right, or if it's interlocutory, that they're going to grant us leave to appeal. That motion's also been filed, and we're waiting to hear back from the appellate division. We also have a stay motion. If the court allows us to appeal, we're asking that everything be stayed pending the appellate court's appeal. That's pretty much a full update from where we stand in the courts. I'm happy to answer any questions from this committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. When invited to speak to offer your comments, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and whether you are a Millburn resident and/or property or business owner. Please do not provide your full address, seeing our meetings are recorded and are readily available to the public. For the convenience of our community, there is a remote option. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button and be sure your video is on when you comment. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. A reminder that this is not a time for dialogue or to debate a matter, and that this is a time during our business meeting for the public to offer comments. I will now open the public comment period.
Hello, Leah Cruz, 25-year Short Hills resident. First, I want to thank Mr. Cantor for your advocacy on behalf of the township. I think these are really important issues for many, many reasons, so thank you. And second, with school starting, And with all the crazy drivers out there, I just want to encourage the township to maybe put out those signs that say how fast you're going. I live near the middle school and people go really fast on Hobart, between Old Short Hills Road and the S curves, because they're going from the middle school to the high school, and it's really dangerous. I'm an adult, I could jump out of the way of a car, but there's a lot of kids walking around. So if we can put some of those speed signs out, I think that would be really a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Bambara, 27-year resident of Millburn Short Hills. I have two matters. First thing, I'd like to publicly ask a question to Judge Santamiro, being that she hasn't allowed township residents to speak on her own behalf. She has ordered a cap to be put on the site as mitigation for the pollutants and poisons that are in the soil. My question to her is if she is willing to indemnify Millburn Township and its residents of all future liabilities and responsibility for any pollution, any personal damage, or any other actions that may emanate from the cap being placed on the polluted site. Secondly, totally different subject. Regarding flood mitigation, I met with a resident of South Mountain Road last week. He called me through the flood mitigation advisory committee. I went and met with him and we walked around his neighborhood. I did notice that the top of South Mountain Road is coincident with the low point on Millburn Avenue. So any natural drainage that comes down that does not find its way into storm drains is going to wash down South Mountain Road. The residents of South Mountain Road some of them have installed dry wells for their sump pumps. The particular gentleman I spoke to was a 5-year resident, so he's not grandfathered with being able to discharge a sump pump to the curb and to the street. So he would have to put in a cistern and handle that water on his own property. My question is the lot size, is there in the ordinance requiring residents to put on-site storage, is the district taken into account such that lot size and plot size compensates for maybe the residents cannot fit or excavate to put a cistern on their site? But the big thing is that hydraulically, those devices will not work on that street because in a storm, the water table is too high. So the cistern fills up and then the basements flood. So my question is to the township is, can you consider allowing residents in certain districts, South Mountain being the one of them, to discharge their dry wells and sump pumps to the street as a short-term solution until we can put more?
Thank you.
They can. Okay, I'm not sure this resident knows that. Okay.
No, I don't know if they can. We'll have to.
Okay, if you can ask.
Thank you.
I know I'm over time.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld, long-term resident located in the Poets section. Today represents like my 4th anniversary of my regular appearances before this body, where I started advocating when I first showed up on September 1st, 2020, about enhanced transparency, accountability, adherence to the rule of law, and robust informed civic participation. I would like to start with some comments on the reports. Alex, you mentioned about the 9/11 more inclusive language, but you mentioned only Taylor Park. Would that kind of plaque will also be at the Crescent, at that memorial? I attended the hearing I've been trying to review some of the appellate filings, and I would just like some more clarification. We heard about 2 orders being appealed, that being July 31st and the August 1st. Is there going to be an appeal of the denial that occurred on, I guess, August 26th, last Monday? And one of the things about transparency, the public has problems monitoring appellate cases. It's not like in trial courts. You have difficulties getting into the docket. And we talked about if we get to see like a public file of all the pleas being filed in the appellate, like such as if there is now an amended appeal. We heard about motions that I have not seen because the motions are occurred before the stay. Just to know, and if we can see what RPM's and Fair Share Housing's response is as their position, whether it's a final interlocutory order. I think that's in the spirit of transparency. As to the bill list, we're talking about flukes in history. It was interesting that there's a reference of Marvin T. Breaker being paid as a visiting judge. And it's partly because of Marvin T. Breaker when he was the municipal attorney of Orange that triggered my endeavor to learn municipal law and to learn about pilots. And I always raise the questions about who screens and monitors the work of our professionals. We heard that a professional has been retained to do the investigation, but it's not been approved by a resolution, official resolution. I don't know if that's proper, but I leave that to you. I look forward for him because I think he has to, about this investigation, he has to speak to me. As to 2 of the motions where you retain persons, where you have like a proposal, please attach them in the future so we know what the scope of the services are. Because one of them you pulled today, we don't know why, and I really don't know what the scope of that services was. As to, I'm all in favor of the 250th anniversary celebration, but I'm concerned that some of the committees will be usurped by local political purposes. It should be nonpartisan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Diane Eglo, lifelong resident. So everyone's got their things that bother them in town, and I think what really bothers me is really the state of how downtown looks. Right now, the most attractive building in the whole town is the parking garage, which is, it's sad. The storekeepers don't have to plant beautiful flower boxes. Maybe that should be an ordinance. The condition of Taylor Park is still really dreadful. I was walking with my husband the other night. The pond is filling up with, someone told me the word, eutrophication. So you spent all that money, we spent all that time trying to get permission from the EPA to dredge it, and now it's all filling up with garbage again. And I don't mean trash garbage, I mean weeds. If you look down from the deli where it comes down the pond, that's all filled with overhanging. I don't know why DPW is not cleaning that up. It's just the pond is not going to be a pond much longer. Again, back to what Leah said, the stop signs in South Mountain section, they're useless. Nobody stops. My neighbors don't stop. At the 4-way stop sign, Alex, I've asked you before, I don't know why we can't do it. I think they should have the little red blinking signs around the stop sign at Whittingham and Ridgewood, because nobody stops at the stop signs. It's very dangerous and it's just perplexing. Again, there's no trees downtown. I was walking downtown and in front of Footers, I think there's 2 empty squares where the trees, if Tom Doty and his new forester can't find a place, there's 2 empty spots right there to start. So I think it's just really sad to see Milburn looking so unattractive when somebody in town just got $7 million to make their property look beautiful. And they're here tonight. Congratulations again, Mr. Stotts. But Milburn really could use a facelift, and there's money in the budget to do that. So I implore you to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Seibert, resident. Hello, everyone. Again, I want to thank you, Attorney Cantor, for fighting for the residents of this town and the committee members supporting you in your endeavors. So there was a comment I read today that's interesting. It says this: the state of New Jersey, or any state, should not be mandating anything, including what type of housing to build. Affordable housing helps a handful of renters and a lot of corporate builders, but ultimately puts a strain on the taxpayers in many, many ways, including overburdening the schools, lowering property values. It seems completely unconstitutional. The home and business owners need to abandon political correctness and speak up and fight for their towns. And I believe that's what you're doing. And I want to say thank you. And hopefully everybody works as a team on this. Period.
Thank you.
I promise you, we didn't discuss this ahead of time. It must be in the air. So last week, the Wall Street Journal had an editorial that says, if you like your town, can you keep it? Think about that. If you like your town, can you keep it? It's basically a politically driven article, but it is saying that development advocates conflate severe shortages in major cities, housing shortages. But I would argue that states also conflate severe shortages around our state, that we don't have enough housing. I just don't think that that's quite accurate. So that's one thing. And the other thing I thought I'd share is what's going on in West Orange. Some of you may know, but West Orange, through its zoning and planning boards and town council, is currently pursuing a spasm of construction. Now, I didn't write that. This is a different writer. But apartment complexes, assisted living centers are being built or proposed in environmentally sensitive areas. So they're going way beyond, we're concerned because of a segregated housing project, which you're being so helpful and everyone's supporting this. It really makes me feel good to know you're all behind this. But what's at risk now in West Orange is a project called the West Essex Highlands, which is a mega development of 496 apartments in a woodlands. It's the last concentrated woodland area in West Orange that hasn't been developed. So basically, whether or not the developer is going to get his way and be able to build 496 units in West Orange, they're already building a lot of other projects in West Orange. But of course, we're the only ones who are being asked to do 100% segregated. But if they do build this, 5,830 trees will have to be cut down in that woodland. 5,830 trees. And that anyone would think that's okay. That's the mindset of the developers. It's business. They don't care about all those trees. They want to follow Mr. T. Remember that when he cut down all his trees? You're probably all too young for that. But anyway, that's what I want to do. I'm trying to speak up for the trees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone before we go online?
Hi, everyone. Shuru Goyal, Short Hills. First of all, I see a great camaraderie, so thanks, all of you and doing all the work together, especially in the TC. I had just a few concerns on the crime. I see an increase in the crime, especially in the Deerfield section along the Westview Road. I think it doesn't have enough lighting. There were a couple of break-ins in the last month, and also the packages were stolen in the Westview Road. So, I would ask if you can have more police presence, especially in the nighttime, police patrolling. I live in Point section now. I can see a lot of police patrolling in the night, which is really amazing. So if you can have the same in that Westview Road, specifically in the Deerfield section. It's basically right cuts into the White Brokerage Road. So it's an easy access, anybody who wants to do a break-in that can go in and out. Let's see what else. Yeah, converting Town Hall Plaza into pedestrian mall was really amazing, and my friends and everybody were telling it was, and I also visited, not a lot because, I had to do a lot of work for my kids and all this stuff, my family going on, but it was refreshing and I really appreciate that. One thing for Geo Park I noticed since I volunteered there for some kids activity and the tennis lessons that goes in, there is just one bench in the whole of tennis, all the tennis courts, and that bench is broken. It has nails also coming out of it, so if somebody can look at it and fix it, that would be great. And just one thing, if we got any update from affordable housing, especially after our show cause was also dismissed. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's go to the line. Good evening.
Okay,
Can you put your camera up?
there we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tom Hildner, long-term residents. I have some questions regarding the affordable housing case. I'm a little confused from the first discussion what the procedural situation is. I know we're appealing at least 2 orders. I know that there was a motion for a stay in the trial court, which was denied. It's my understanding that from what attorney said that there is a motion now in front of the appellate division for a stay, and that has not been ruled upon. I would think that at the same time, we would ask that if that's not going to be granted, and my own suspicion is that it will not, that we should be asking for an accelerated appeal. And I don't know whether that's been done or not. So I'm a little confused as to the procedural standing. If we have a final order, then we have an absolute right to appeal. And now the jurisdiction is in the hands of the appellate division. I think, and I don't know whether it's posted, but the April 9th, 2024 order of Judge Santamorto should be posted in the township website because it sets forth all of the obligations that we agreed upon and the various deadlines that were not met before we determined on February of 2024 that 9 Main Street was no longer presented a realistic opportunity. I think that statement of reasons, which runs several pages, will give people a real idea of what's going on here, where she was coming from, what's the basis of her decision, not deciding whether she thinks it's a good idea that we have this project or not, which we all oppose, but gives it. And I think it helps understand what's going on here. What she did do is appoint in her April 9th order, the special master to identify any realistic sites which Milburn was then required to utilize to meet the 75 unit obligation represented by 9 Main Street. And that's what he was done. It seems to me that an argument can be made that those deadlines then are really not what's relevant, but is what Mr. Banish has to say. Mr. Banish received input from us, received input from the other parties, and he came to the conclusion that 9 Main Street was the most suitable. But as I read the orders, the judge, although came to, what is ordering us to proceed, never really adopted his report, not specifically in any event, but more to the point. We submitted expert reports opposing that point of view. Our opposition submitted expert reports supporting that point of view. He came down on the side of 9 Main Street. But to me, that means there's a distinct factual issues that had to be determined here. And I would think that we would.
Thank you. I'm sorry, your time's up. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you
Can you
see?
just put your camera on, please, Mr. Kirsch? Thank you.
Okay, you got it?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening. Phil Kirsch, Milburn resident. First, I have a question. While we're engaged in finding an alternative to the 9 Main Street proposal, I'm wondering if we have a contingency for the DPW and recycling, in case in the end we are forced to build 9 Main Street. At minimum, the gas pumps for the DPW fleet and the sand storage structure have to be moved. And of course, we will need another site for recycling unless our citizens are going to lose that service. So what, if any, contingency plans do we have? Next, I do want to comment on some things that were said regarding affordable housing in public comment at the end of last meeting. First, history does matter. Raise your hand if you were here 10 years ago when I asked Mayor Tillotson, yes, that far back, if Milburn had any plans to make a settlement with the court on affordable housing so that we can control our future. I did not receive an answer, and apparently neither I nor other residents did enough to press the issue. Because unlike what another resident stated at the last meeting, you don't wait for developers to come to you to fulfill a responsibility, a legal one at that. You do what you need to follow those regulations and protect your town. In some ways, the opposition to the previous TC's agreement has been a temper tantrum, in that it was characterized by angry one-sided arguments and exaggeration. 9 Main Street, if built, would not be some poor people's village subject to scorn and alienation, but the affordable housing for working people who could not otherwise be able to take advantage of our town's offerings, and acceptance of the residents would be no problem if we are the people we say we are. The alternatives proposed are not ideal either, as they compromise both library use and all-day transit parking, as well as traffic in the area. So as we pursue our legal options, I think we should try to be even-handed, and I agree with the opinion that we should do it with open eyes so that our pursuit does not become quixotic instead of heroic. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Perry Urso, Short Hills. In review of the Township Attorney Cantor's time summaries, which were submitted on July 2nd, 2024, they reflect billings for the Bear Property versus Milburn Township litigation. Invoice number 19500, services through May 31st. It lists charges for mediation. So please correct me. To my knowledge, May 7th was a scheduled court-ordered conference between both attorneys to discuss the status of the litigation. Attorney Cantor, 2 associates from his firm, township representative, and plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Jeff Feld, were all present. To my knowledge, I was told that there were no court-appointed designated mediator, nor an agreed third party present, which procedurally could be would have been correct. So to my understanding, it was not a court-ordered mediation. It was a conference. And during that conference, it was presented by the plaintiff's attorney, a settlement offer, which was declined in writing by the defendant's township counsel, Mr. Cantor. So I would ask, when it was decided between May 7th conference and the May 13th refusal correspondence, did the township decline the settlement offer? Why would this body continue to litigate and defend an issue that prior elected officials, current elected officials, conceding that the DMDA required separate boundaries and separate management court? It was well before my time, but unfortunately I know far too much about the DMDA and a SID now. I refer you to the following TC meetings: May 15th, 2028, November 20th, 2018, November 20th, 2018, and since July 14th, 2020, December 19th, 2023. We're both, and also where both committee Woman Prupus and our BA agree that there were some issues and concerns with the current SID. Additionally, April 18th, the SID director stated during the Explore meeting that there was not enough foot traffic up on Upper Milburn Avenue, so he doesn't want to waste taxpayers' dollars. And lastly, at one of our recent 2024 TC meetings, unfortunately, I don't have that exact date, both Committee Woman Prupus and Deputy Mayor put a motion on the table to re-examine the SID. It was unfortunately denied by the majority, all of which can be seen on YouTube. Unfortunately, the minutes do not reflect actual statements. Please remember, you are fiduciaries of the public trust. How much money of trust fund monies are you willing to authorize to defend this case? You know and should know that prior
Thank you.
TC invest.
Thank you, Ms. Urso.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jerry Kung, Short Hills resident. I just wanted to have a brief reply to Mr. Kirsch's comments from just now. He said that he was here 10 years ago asking Mayor Tillotson a question. Interestingly enough, by my accounting, 10 years ago would have been 2014. And on Fair Share Housing Center's own website, it says in 2015, just over 15 years since COA became defunct, that New Jersey Supreme Court ruled in favor of fair share and transitioned the enforcement of the Mount Laurel Doctrine back to the trial court system. So if Phil Kirsch was in 2014 asking Mr. Tillotson why the town wouldn't settle, maybe he had some sort of crystal ball whereby he was able to foresee into the future that the court would make some sort of ruling about a year after his conversation to settle with a party that then at that point in time when he was making the inquiry was not actually in charge of settling with anyone. So, maybe he misspoke and he meant 9 years, but, we should be very careful in speaking precisely when we want to make points related to the history of affordable housing. And just another point that Mr. Kirsch made, which was why the town doesn't have a contingency for where the DPW operations to go. It's my understanding that there is no place for the DPW operations to go. That's precisely why there would be irreparable harm to the township in taking the DPW site. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now close public comment. Any
Mayor,
comment?
before you open up the committee, I would just ask the committee not to respond to the contingency plans related to the DPW site. It's highly relevant to litigation. I'm sorry. I'm just asking the committee not to respond to the question regarding contingency plans to the DPW. And that should not infer that there is a contingency plan. I'm not saying that there is or is not, but I would just ask that we defer, given the litigation and the issues surrounding it, that we don't respond to that one particular question.
Thank you. I just want to say something real quick, just about some public comments that were made. I think our town right now looks beautiful, including our downtown. I think the entire stretch of Milburn Avenue looks really nice right now. And just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you.
And also, is there an increase in crime?
I
That
can't.
you know of?
verify that. No, I can't verify that.
All right, thanks. I just want to make sure. Okay. Deputy Mayor, you want to go first?
Sure. So, Ms. Cruz, I like your idea of putting out the radar signs. I don't know if our town has any temporary signs. I know some towns have mobile, like radar, this is your speed, slow down. If we have those, maybe we could strategically deploy those near the schools for the next few weeks. And if there's certain areas that we feel are going to need a constant reminder, then maybe we should look into putting some permanent signage there. But I think that's a good idea. Mr. Bambera, I have heard similar complaints from residents of South Mountain, specifically to the street that you were speaking about. Those that do have dry wells, they seem to fill up and the water has nowhere to go because the water table there is so high. So it would be interesting to know if there's something we could do with regards to allowing residents to discharge the sump pumps into the street. However, we'd also want to take into consideration whether that would cause any downstream impact and make flooding worse. So perhaps that's something that the Flood Mitigation Committee could look into and then make a formal recommendation to the Township Committee. Let's see here. Ms. Aglow, I hear what your concerns are about the stop signs in South Mountain. Perhaps, if we do that townwide traffic study that I've been calling for quite some time now, then we could get some more data and figure out whether we need a light there or maybe one of those flashing red lights, which are tantamount to a stop sign, but they're a little bit more in your face. So maybe there's something we can do there. Let's see here. Ms. Goel, with regards to crime, it's definitely an ongoing problem that we're facing along with many other towns. I will say I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought this summer was going to be a lot worse in terms of break-ins, and I think that some of the changes that our police department has made have paid off. Their increased patrols because, while there weren't zero incidents over the summer, it was better than I expected. And while there's always room for improvement, I do think we should give credit where credit's due, and I think we're moving in the right direction. Not to say more can't be done, but I do think we're moving in the right direction. And certainly the benches in Taylor Park, if there's nails coming out of them, maybe we could have the DPW go and inspect them and take care of that. It sounds like that could potentially be a hazard. Alex, maybe you could have that looked into. Mr. Kirsch. So it's my understanding that the affordable housing laws in the state of New Jersey specifically do not require municipalities to have to spend money to proactively build affordable housing. Municipalities can choose, as part of a settlement agreement, to spend their own money to proactively build affordable housing. And some municipalities choose to do that in order to get more favorable zoning terms or a more favorable immunity agreement. But it's my understanding, and it will certainly allow Mr. Cantor to correct me if I'm wrong, that legally towns are not obligated to produce the affordable housing. What they have to do is produce opportunities for the creation of affordable housing. So what that means is have zoning policies in place that would allow developers to come in, purchase land, and build affordable housing. Oftentimes that's in addition to market rate units. But again, it's my understanding that towns aren't required to build that housing proactively, and I think it's kind of unfair to suggest that we should do that. If the state wanted all the towns to build affordable housing proactively, then maybe the state should fund that on their own, because I think it's a lot to ask towns to reach into their own pockets to overdevelop their towns. And I also want to point out, so Mr. Seibert, I think you may have misunderstood what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do here is not suppress affordable housing. What we're trying to do here is build affordable housing in a responsible and inclusive manner. And again, I want everyone to understand that. On this dais, we are in favor of affordable housing, but we're in favor of affordable housing done correctly and done in a manner that doesn't segregate and harm those individuals it's supposed to benefit. Affordable housing should lift up all of the residents that live in the affordable housing. And the way to do that is to have integrated housing where you have a mix of market rate, perhaps workforce housing, which is something new, and affordable units. That is how you have successful affordable housing. So that's what we are advocating for, and that is what the alternative proposal we put forth does. So we will continue to fight to try and get the courts and the developers to understand that there is a better way to do this, and it would certainly be done more quickly. And I'm gonna heed our attorney's advice with regards to the DPW questions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Committee will approve this? I have no comments. Committeeman Stoll?
Sure, and Frank eloquently put, I agree 100%. It's a mischaracterization and misinformation that Mr. Kirsch says that we don't support affordable housing. We all support affordable housing done in a sensible manner, both from an infrastructure, a school, a financial, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to correct that for the record, and Frank did a great job of explaining why. Couple points here. Completely agree about the signs in South Mountain. They need to be looked at. There's some signs, the one that was discussed, where it's just a free for all. People can't see that stop sign. It should be blinking. I was teaching my son to drive and he blew that sign in 2 seconds until I screamed at him. So I think that really needs to be looked at, just from a standpoint there. And the traffic study needs to be done. Charles Bambera, 100% agree on and we should look at that from the FMAC and what we can do to kind of alleviate some of the concerns about the dry wells and the cisterns overflowing. It doesn't seem too far out of hand to be able to let them go into the public drainage system if it is a significant issue. So maybe we'll take a little sidebar on that and go from there. Ms. Eglo, once again, I think downtown's never been greater. To second the mayor, the Township Plaza was an overwhelming success. We're the envy of a lot of the surrounding towns. I don't find it blighted at all. I think it's, and to put that forth is a little disingenuous. And also too, I'd like to compliment the police force for what they've been doing. We are the envy of the surrounding towns in that matter as well. I was at a function a couple of weekends ago with a lot of other officials from other towns, committee members, et cetera, and their crime had elevated. So big thank you to the police officers. What else I have? That sums it up. Thank you very much.
Committee McCall? Yeah, I'll leave the affordable housing questions to our attorney. I will say that the stop sign issue is not just a South Mountain issue. It's a townwide issue. I certainly support the traffic study, but I can tell you that in the Glenwood area, people rushing to the train in the morning find that the stop sign that leads you into Chatham Road is optional. Hobart and Highland, the four-way stop sign, nobody knows what the hell to do there. So, I mean, there's certainly room for improvement throughout the town.
Mr. McDonald?
Sure. Just a few comments. Regarding speed signs, certainly no issue in taking a look at where temporary speed signs and this is your speed can be set up. Just a reminder that last year we had purchased 5 additional stationary permanent speed signs and speed indicators to place in and around higher traffic areas and closer to schools, Hobart being one of them. There's one on Melbourne Avenue, and there's one on Great Hills. So they're out there and they're there to give people their speed indication, but we can also put temporary ones out as well. When it comes to stop signs, when it comes to speed, we go through this every fall. We talk about this every fall. This is a behavioral issue of those who drive here and who live here, and needs to continue to be reinforced both by all of us, but also by the police department that, regardless of whether you're a resident, if you're not going to stop at the stop signs, that you will be ticketed for that, much like stopping for people in crosswalks. I always remind people that we did a cops in a crosswalk one year in town in 4 different locations, and we stopped 360 people for not stopping for people in crosswalks. So it is common, I agree. But one of the things that I've always been cautious of is that putting up blinking stop signs in people's neighborhoods is not necessarily always what is wanted. It may be wanted by those who feel like people are going through those stop signs, but those people who live there, those people who are impacted by that every day in their community, it may not be what they want. So you have to be judicious about when you do that. In particular, Highland and Hobart is one of those locations that we did do that because of the how highly trafficked it is. That goes with saying that Ridgewood and Whittingham may be a good candidate for that, but I don't know that I'd put them deeper into neighborhoods. So something that we could take a look at. As far as the discussion about South Mountain Road, again, just want to be cautious about allowing people on a particular road to discharge into the street when there's an ordinance that says that if you are going to have a sump pump, that it should be connected to the storm sewer system. And certainly not the sanitary sewer system, but also the storm sewer system. There are some that are already grandfathered in and have pipes that are discharged to the street. But much like anything and what we've experienced over the last 2 months, and I can tell you the amount of complaints that we've got from people that we've never gotten complaints about when it comes to rain and what happens during rainstorms. And it's not those people that are in those areas that we as a community know as flooding areas, but people in random spots, is because we've gotten a lot of rain. July, we've had an immense amount of rain, and people had issues that don't normally have issues. And that's not always necessarily because there's a flooding issue or a consistent problem. Is that, hey, we got 4 or 5 inches of rain in 2 hours or 3 hours, and that's going to have an impact no matter what, or no matter how you slice it. So I just want to be cautious about, identifying something that, maybe just an issue with what we experienced and not necessarily a overall issue. And just as far as the park goes and the benches, certainly we will take a look, but I just always encourage people that, if you see something like that, put it in through the SDL portal. It's, report a concern on the township's website. That helps us get it to the right people. People will take, the staff will take a look at it. We review every week in an admin meeting all those SDL complaints and make sure that they're being addressed. I just ask that you use that. That's a way to make sure that they're done, as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the residents for the compliments, but all the praise really goes to this committee. They really have just such a strong commitment to its residents, to its affordable housing commitment, and to do it right and properly for the residents and the potential new residents. So, you really have a great township committee who's continuously looking out for its residents. I gave a pretty full recitation of the procedural history of fair share housing. I think Mr. Feld asked a question regarding the order show cause, whether we were appealing that. The relief sought on that order show cause, an identical motion was filed today for stay relief, seeking that same relief, so we won't be appealing it. It's kind of a parallel thing. First, you seek the stay relief at the trial court, and then you move on to the appellate division. Of note, though, we did make note that, and you were there, that the court reached out directly to the appellate division, and not only the court, but the judge herself reached out directly to the appellate division. We believe that that is a further showing of an appearance of impropriety. So we did add that to our papers. Other than that, unless this committee wants me to address any questions raised, I think I gave a pretty full recitation of the procedural history and where we stand on fair share housing, but I'm happy to answer any other further questions.
Thank you. The Township Committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to any items listed on the consent agenda? May I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-204 through Resolution 24-209, which are listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? Yes. Deputy Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, resolutions. So just note, Resolution 24-210 was pulled from the agenda and will not be considered tonight. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to Resolution 24-211? May I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-211?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? Yes. Deputy Mayor Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to Resolution 24-212? May I have a motion to approve Resolution 24-212?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Krupas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Second Mandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Okay, Committeewoman Krupas, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2686-24.
I'd like to present an ordinance by the Township of Milburn, ordinance 2686-24. An ordinance to add to Article 10-6, amending and supplementing Chapter 10, property maintenance, of the revised general ordinance of the Township of Milburn. The purpose of this ordinance is to prohibit any planting, spread, or impact of bamboo and other noxious weeds in the township. In particular, bamboo can be damaging and impactful to neighboring properties, and these types of plantings will be prohibited after the effective date of this ordinance. In addition, the ordinance will address impacts to neighboring properties from bamboo that has already been planted or established prior to the effective date of this ordinance. Fines will be imposed for property owners that plant bamboo or noxious weeds or allow established planting to impact neighboring properties without proper abatement. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with the law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Krupas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Second Mandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Second Mandy, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2687-24.
I would like to present an ordinance entitled Ordinance 2687-24. Ordinance amending and supplementing the Township of Milburn Development Regulations and Zoning Ordinance. Perhaps Mr. McDonald could give a brief explanation of this.
Yeah, this ordinance is being amended to establish a member of the Environmental Commission to sit on the Development Review Committee and make sure that they're invited to those meetings and able to review land use applications that are put before the DRC. They're currently in the ordinance, but as sort of a supplementary or a in case you need group, this will make them a permanent fixture of the Development Review Committee.
Excellent. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Krupas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Second Mandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. I would like to present an ordinance entitled Ordinance 2688-24. Temporary closure of Town Hall Plaza between Essex Street and Milburn Avenue pursuant to New Jersey NJSA 40:67-16.9 in the Township of Milburn, County of Essex, New Jersey. So this is to extend the closure till November. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on final reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Krupas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Second Mandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Committeeman Stoller, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2689-24.
Thank you. I would like to present an ordinance entitled Ordinance 2689-24, ordinance creating a temporary open container area. This is the ability to BYOB in the Township Plaza. It's been a fantastic success all summer. People like to enjoy a nice glass of wine or a beer with their watching the musical performances. Any questions? I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Krupas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Second Mandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Committeeman Stoller, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2670-24.
I present for consideration an ordinance entitled Ordinance 2670-24, an ordinance of the Township of Milburn, County of Essex, authorizing the Township of Milburn to execute a memorandum of understanding with Paper Mill Playhouse, 420 Brookside Drive, Milburn, New Jersey, 07041. Tonight is the time to set for public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law. I declare the hearing open.
I'm Jeffrey Feld, longtime resident located in the Poet section. Sequentially, as I wrote a letter to you before earlier, the question is sequentially, should the first resolution go first where you buy the property? Because right now you're approving a lease for a property you don't own. In addition, when we're talking about, this is a lease for lot 15, parking lot. If you look at the compensation that we're receiving, I think it's like 30 years, times, it's less than what the purchase price is for that lot. I don't know if you can do that. This goes back to my original question, when you approved the bond, whether the state constitution prohibited you to giving a windfall, that you're buying a piece of property that's supposed to be really a non-recourse obligation, which would be consistent of the original lease agreement. Plus, the terms of this lease differ from the original lease. Where's the obligations of maintenance, and all the other covenants that we have in the original lease. So besides the sequence, the question is the compensation. This also goes back to the original bond ordinance that you approved. At the time, it was really a conditional approval, so you didn't approve the sale, you didn't have an appraisal. And the question is, what is this transaction? Because what came out in basic documents I gave to you in the last couple of days is the planner's report. And what came out, since the time you approved the bond, is that the expansion of the carriage house. I think people have to understand there's a lot more issues going in here. Milburn and Paper Mill have a landmark tax case about how you present your use. In the last couple of years, I think July 2020, there was a case regarding Kenyon University about the restaurant. And the restaurant was taxable. The question is, everyone's trying to maintain the tax exempt services. Everyone understands about the theater. A restaurant is not a theater. And the question is, does that impact the tax exempt status? And we, taxpayers, are we entitled to a better share of the things? And I know Mr. Cantor's law firm is well aware of pilots and these type of cases, because you're counsel to Union and Livingston with the hospitals, that we have to be very careful. It's one thing to say that revenues of the theater, which we all recall as being a not-for-profit entity, but is a restaurant a not-for-profit entity? And is a parking lot revenues, is that a not-for-profit entity?
Thank you.
Good evening, Dave Cosgrove, resident. I had made comments on the on this particular piece earlier. There's a typo relating to American Arbitration Association, it should be. And the other thing I'd urge you to do, again, a comment I made once before, is the indemnity provisions and the maintenance provisions in this agreement for the one parking lot should be identical to the main lease. Whoever drafted the main lease did a wonderful job with the indemnity, and maintenance, et cetera, but now you're gonna have two different agreements. One is very thorough and protects the town, the original lease, and you got this one that doesn't do a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you. You have to finish.
Okay, is there discussion or? Okay. I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and the township clerk be directed to published ordinance by title and passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second?
Second,
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sakamandy?
No.
Mr. Stoller?
Yes.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Committeewoman Prupus, you are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2685-24.
I present for consideration an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2685-24. An ordinance of the Township of Milburn, County of Essex, authorizing the Township of Milburn to execute an agreement for purchase and sale of property with Paper Mill Playhouse for 20 Brookside Drive, Milburn, New Jersey, 07041. Tonight is the time set for public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law.
I declare the hearing open.
With all due respect, I just had to create a record. I just had to put some comments on the record. I referenced the emails I sent to you earlier. I also think that what should have been attached here was the appraisal that you're using to support it and how you got to a $1.8 million price. The question is, there's an issue whether we are paying them a premium for this acquisition. This also ties into the issues I raised before about the tax exempt status and why we are expanding. And this is the piece I never really understood, because when this process began for citizens, like last November and last December, when paper mill came to us before and the process began, saying, forget about, give us forgiveness of the original loan, then about the new monies. It was really never really mentioned at the beginning about the expansion of the restaurant. And I don't understand, and everyone's saying we need to do the project to expand the theater. Everyone says that to help downtown businesses. You all agree on that. What does the expansion of a restaurant, how does that help downtown businesses? And that answer has never happened. And one issue that's never really been answered, historically, who authorized the escrow of the monies? Remember, there was rent coming in. Then also was put in escrow, because what was told to people in 2008, residents, this was going to be a non-recourse loan. They pay the amount of money to pay the debt, and they have the option of purchasing. It's interesting, they don't have that option to purchase the parking lot. I mean, I don't think people looked at how each deals work, because the original lease was a sale leaseback transaction, where there's an option after a certain period of time for paper mill to buy back that original properties. They do not have the option to buy back the parking lot.
Mayor, I just want to say we are negotiating a formal lease with paper mill. And if you look at the memorandum of understanding, it says eventually enter into a formal agreement. But the plan is that although they might not be specifically tied together or cross-referenced, that there will be a lease and the contract be negotiated simultaneously. So there will be there is formal lease negotiations going on.
Right,
currently.
procedurally, it should all be conforming based on our expectations.
Correct. So some of the weaknesses identified in this memorandum of understanding certainly will be identified in the lease.
And just for the record too, we're paying what the paper mill has into that blocking property. We're now gonna have 5+ contiguous acres of land downtown Millburn within shouting distance of the train station. Originally purchased in 2008, just as a layman in real estate, not really knowing that much, but I'm sure you guys can follow along. Any real estate bought in 2008 is either tripled or doubled or quadrupled in the last some odd 16, 17 years. So giving a preferential piece of land as a blocking position, if we ever did want to monetize that land, seems incomprehensible to me from a business person. Legally, I've been told we're doing this by the book procedurally. Thank you.
Just going to put on the record, I agree with a lot of the concerns many of you brought up about this. I do not support this. I think it is a irresponsible use of taxpayer dollars, and I will vote accordingly.
I move that the public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prubus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Second
No.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Okay, we have no matters of old business, new business. Deputy Mayor Second, you wanted to have a discussion on affordable housing regulations?
Yes, thank you. So now I was thinking, we're a town that's actually committed to building affordable housing. And one of the main ways that affordable housing can get built in towns is for developers to come in and actually build the affordable housing. And oftentimes what they do is they'll build 80% market rate units, 20% affordable. And this has sort of been the de facto standard throughout the state. However, it's my understanding there's no reason that our town can't unilaterally increase that requirement by ordinance, so that, you know, instead of 20% affordable set aside, maybe it's more, you know, maybe it's 25, maybe it's 30, whatever it may be. I would make the argument that in our town, because the units that are for rent for such high prices compared to other towns, the developers could actually still profit if they had a higher percentage of affordable units required. They would still be able to come and develop, they'd still make healthy profits. I see no reason why, when you have rents that are a fraction, for market rate units that are a fraction of what they are in Millburn, in some other towns where they're building, hundreds of units. If that's the case, if those are profitable, then why can't developers do that here? So my suggestion is that we increase the set aside required for new multifamily or rental, high density rental units beyond 20%. I think it will also help produce more affordable housing in our town more quickly because it seems like developers want to develop, and that's fine. I just think they should be doing more of their fair share to help our town with its affordable housing requirements.
Is this something that we want to discuss further?
Well, I think we're doing it right now. We're doing 100% affordable housing. That's what's proposed. So 20 to 33%. And the prior TC members voted for the 100%. So understanding the compliance with state house obligations, with our legal obligations, the increased affordability availability is a good thing. I just think we need to understand as well the development costs as a town in totality and make sure we see all the different pieces. But all for looking at that and understanding what that potential reduction in new developments by increasing the availability to affordable seems fun.
I think personally, I think that there's a glut of market rate units in this immediate area. From what I understand, the Upton has many vacancies that they can't fill. And we have seen no construction on the Andy Says development or the Woodland Road. All they've done is knock down the last building over there, I think, to lower their property tax, since there's nothing at all there now. It's a bigger empty lot. And furthermore, for what they're building, to have only gotten 12 affordable units out of it is just wrong. So, I think it's something, as long as, I had always thought that the 80-20 was a New Jersey state requirement, but learning that that's not the case, I think it's something we should definitely look into.
Committee Woman Purpose?
I think we can continue.
Okay, good. Michelle?
Good.
Okay. Public comment period is to allow for final comments from the community. When invited to speak to offer your comments, please come to the lectern and clearly state your name, whether you are a Millburn resident and/or property or business owner. Please do not provide your full address, seeing our meetings are recorded and are readily available to the public. A reminder, in order to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. We will begin.
Debbie Frank, Millburn resident. At the last meeting, I made a statement about Millburn's history with affordable housing and about the use of the word tenement to describe 9 Main Street. A member of the community disputed my reading of that history. Well, I agree that there are various ways of interpreting that history. I also believe that interpretations of it by any individual here, including by me, are beside the point. The only interpretation that matters is that of the judge and of the legal system. If the committee sees Millburn's way forward as persuading the judge that the proposed alternatives to 9 Main Street are sincere, good faith efforts to meet the town's affordable housing obligations, I believe the use of the term tenement, not to mention slum, is a strategic mistake. I have another reason to object to those terms. The implication is that renters in affordable housing would be unable or unwilling to maintain their apartments and are thus undesirable members of this community. A so-called tenement would inevitably become slum, an opinion seemingly based solely on the income level of the renters. How can anyone just assume these people will not take care of their home? How can anyone just assume their children will not be able to thrive in Millburn schools, something I've heard said? Intellect and hope and drive and a sense of responsibility and pride are not exclusive to those with a high income or a high net worth. I've mentioned before that I am the daughter of a woman, herself the daughter of parents with a 4th grade and an 8th grade education whose marriage imploded. She was left with 6 children, aged from infant to 8. She had a secretarial school education, no alimony, extremely sporadic child support. She found an entry-level job in New York Civil Service. She spent her annual 2-week vacation washing windows and painting the house. Her kids graduated from college, with 4 of them earning advanced degrees. We were not outliers, we were not exceptional, and we would not have been welcomed here. I cannot help but take the words tenement and slum personally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Feld in the poet section. I just want to follow up on some things that I didn't get a chance to speak at the first time. And following up, as we heard, the status of the Woodland and Annie says development agreements. I think the public's entitled to know a status of that. There's an issue about inactive voters. That's usually federal law defines people that haven't voted, we'll say in the 2020 and 2022 federal general elections. I think we should find out how many people are on our rolls and who should be deemed as inactive and removed from our registration. I offer my assistance in fighting, fair share housing. In connection to that, I refer you to basically a big ad, public notice yesterday about Elizabeth. Elizabeth is rescinding a pilot, saying that the developer misrepresented that it was an urban renewal entity. One of the issues I've been raising since the settlement came out and they said we're going to do a pilot, I asked, where is our long-term tax exemption policy and procedure ordinance? As to the settlement with RPM or that developer, does it have to be an urban renewal entity? Is it going to be subject to long-term tax exemption law? I am jazzed. Something is happening in the state that they're looking at pilots to see whether the exemptions are coming under the right statute. I've been fighting RPM in Orange for years because they went under the HMFA non-urban renewal entity, which I've been arguing was repealed in 1991. I'm offering you my assistance. Mr. Hildner, do not discount him. He's a very seasoned, more than 45 years of law. He raised a point. The judge, when you looked at the July 31st order, there were 3 orders submitted, one by the town, one by RPM, and one by me. One of the issues that was, there had to be a finding, because she signed the special master to prepare a report. Under the court rules, the court has to adopt or reject the report. She deleted, if you look at the orders that she prepared, she deleted all reference to adoptions. So you're asking for grounds to saying that this judge made another error. That's one of the errors. And Mr. Hildner, start following his roadmap that he's giving you. I told you about Elizabeth. Again, thank you. I'm just creating a record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Eglo. Mayor Romano, you and I both grew up in town. We both know what the town looked like. We know things change. I think the town is beautiful. Town Hall Plaza, I think it should be permanent. I think it should be made into a park. It should be beautiful. But there are broken bricks along the sidewalk up and down Milburn Avenue. There are broken sidewalks. Right now, the garage looks beautiful because there's plantings and flower boxes. So I'm not saying Milburn is falling apart. I'm saying we should do better. There's money in the budget. Why? I don't know who's responsible to replace all the bricks along the sidewalks along Milburn Avenue, but I think when you go to other towns, you see a difference. You walk in Verona Park, it is spectacular. Their plantings are beautiful. Their pathways are not crumbling. And I know when Richard Wasserman was up there, after they did not do our full park redo, there was supposed to be $300,000. I don't know, I'm not up there, I don't know what the status of that is, but there is a broken bench in the Rose Garden, you can't sit on it. You could replace those wooden benches with recycled benches like they have at the reservoir. The reservoir is beautiful, I've been walking there most every morning. The dead fish are gone, I'm happy to say. But it's not that Milburn is deteriorating, it's just not kept up as well as it could and should be for a town of this stature. And I'm not insulting the town. I love the town. I'm not moving. So that is what I meant. I'm not insulting anybody, but let's make the town a little more refreshed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Charles Bambara, 27-year resident, Melbourne Short Hills. Want to speak one more time briefly about flood mitigation. I've responded to some posts in the various township chat groups regarding what's being done for flood mitigation. Some residents are of the mindset that nothing's being done. They're complaining about tax monies being spent elsewhere and not on flood mitigation. I just want people to know that there are many projects. Alex is part of it. Ben is the representative on the committee, and Mayor Romano is on it also. We are actively working on many projects. Projects of the magnitude and nature we're talking about requires feasibility studies by engineering firms. We're out for requests for bid for some of those projects. These are multi-year projects. They are not something that's going to be done tomorrow. So I ask the public's indulgence in granting patience. Things like this take time. Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. The Flood Mitigation Committee is going to hold a public information session. So anybody that has questions about timing and what projects are being done and why aren't they being done fast enough, I invite them to come to that meeting. Has a date been set for that?
It's October 28th.
Okay, so it'll be in October, and I think at our next meeting, we'll set a time and then we'll make a public announcement, but I invite the public to attend that. So a lot is being done, and that's the message I delivered tonight, and I invite residents concerned to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Let me start my video. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening. Phil Kirsch, longtime Milburn resident. I just wanted to come on again to correct something that my friend and neighbor on the township committee said. I did not say that the township opposes affordable housing. I'm simply trying to somewhat balance the conversation. I believe anyone who's followed it knows that since the initial Mount Laurel decision, any town that ignored this responsibility, regardless of the details, put itself in peril. And Milburn didn't neglect it. That was my only point. The only other thing I'd like to say is I heard the phrase lifted up. People in affordable housing do not need to be lifted up. Nothing says they're lower than anyone else except in their wealth. So I think the idea, the characterization that somehow we're bringing other types of people in who are lower in some way or won't take care of themselves is just simply wrong. Also, talk like that does put our town in a bad light. So again, I'm just trying to balance the conversation somewhat from my point of view, not make one extreme side against another extreme side. And I hope you will recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. Let's wait till we're done.
Okay.
Good evening.
All right, good evening. Once again, Tom Hill, the long-term resident. I just want to follow up on something Mr. Fell said and that I didn't get a chance to make. A couple of brief points. One, I didn't get an answer to the question, whether or not we've also sought an accelerated hearing on our appeal, which is an important point if we haven't done it already. Secondly, there are issues of fact that are created by the difference in the expert reports. Because there are issues of fact, those can't be determined on papers. The judge didn't make any factual findings, she gave a long procedural history. So in order to do that, you require testimony. And in my view, there should have been testimony taken that it was required and is reversible error not to have done it. I don't know whether we requested a plenary hearing or not. Hopefully we did, but even if we didn't, you would still have the issue of facts being determined on papers. When material facts need testimony, the experts could have been cross-examined. She took the special master's report. She didn't actually accept it, as Mr. Fell said, but that was the same as her decision. And I think that is an area that should be explored. I didn't find out whether the April 9th order with its statement of reasons has ever been posted. That wasn't responded to. I'd like to know, because people in the town should read it and they can see exactly what was being faced, we are facing. So those are some of the things that I think that is necessary for us to consider. The last thing is, are we facing an exposure for attorney's fees on appeal? I mean, is the court on appeal able to award the fees, the costs of our opposition against us if we're unsuccessful on the appeal? Those are some of the things I would ask be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Nope. Anyone else?
Good evening, Jerry Kung, Short Hills resident. Just wanted to make a point about how, political correctness is great and all, but we should really be careful about policing our speech so much to the point where we can't even say anything. I think George Orwell's 1984 is a very good example of what happens when we reduce our language to something that is totally unintelligible and not able to produce any sort of meaningful discourse. Many people might have issues with certain words like tenement. That's fine. The Oxford English Dictionary, I believe, my iPhone. The Oxford English Dictionary says that tenement is land or real property which is held of another by any tenure, a holding. I'm going to conjecture here that tenement comes from holding, tenere, Latin. I didn't actually learn Latin, I learned Spanish, I'm just inferring. So my only point is this: it doesn't matter how I believe the connotation of tenement is, or what Ms. Frank's connotation of tenement is. Legally, the term tenement, land or property which is held by another by any tenure or holding, which is really just a long way to say, let's just make sure that we're conveying our ideas to each other properly and not just, preventing ourselves from actually having a proper discussion of ideas. I think that Mr. Kirsch's point about lifting people up, I personally don't really see where he's coming from there. Maybe I'm totally missing something, but I didn't take offense to that. I can go on about how, I don't come from wealth, my parents were immigrants to this country, but I'm not going to, I see no reason why, I would not take offense to saying that my parents were lifted up from immigrating to this country, for example. And I don't think that people should take offense to that. I think that everyone's out here trying to make a better life for themselves. And, we as a community are trying to do that as well by not putting them on a contaminated dump. So thank you again. I know my comments were long-winded. It's been a long night. So thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll now close public comment. Deputy Mayor, would you like to start?
Absolutely. So I want to correct a few things that were said by some residents. So one, what do we mean when we say we want to lift up the community? One, we want to help lift up everyone in the community. One of the benefits of doing integrated housing in an inclusive manner is you have families that are living side by side with families of various socioeconomic backgrounds. Their kids play with each other. They socialize with each other, the families, the parents. They meet in the halls, they might share the common space outdoors. And the interaction that you get by people of different socioeconomic backgrounds, living together and amongst each other ends up lifting up the entire community, because people of the higher socioeconomic status begin to understand some of the struggles that people of the lower socioeconomic status might be dealing with. And the people of lower socioeconomic status may see a path to a higher socioeconomic status by, emulating some of the things that they may see or hear from others in that community. The point of a community is for all of us to learn and grow together. When we say we want to lift up the community, that's what we want to do. In no way should anyone think that in any way that we mean that anyone is lower. But when you look at the criteria for affordable housing, there is some component there in terms of income. And I would hope that people that move to Millburn and live in the affordable units, I would hope their income goes up. I would hope the income of wealthy people that live in town goes up. We want everyone to prosper. So I think you misconstrued what we mean when we say we want to lift up the entire community. Let's see, Ms. Frank. I think Dr. Kung explained things quite well. So a tenement generally is a term that's used to describe a building that is a rental building that people live into. Back in the day, right, they were stuffed in there like sardines. And what would happen is these buildings were not maintained and repaired, and they ended up deteriorating again and again over time. The problem with a 100% affordable development is the developers have very little incentive to maintain that building, okay? They make their money on the development deals, they make their money up front, and they make a little bit of money along the way. But what they are really looking for is the end of that 30-year period where they have a deed restriction. Because what they do at the end of that term is they'll rehab the units and then rent them out as market rate units. They might tear down the entire building and then go and turn that into luxury housing, right? The developers of these 100% affordable buildings generally do not have pure motives, and they have very little incentive to keep those buildings maintained. So therefore, when you have buildings that are integrated, developers have more of an incentive to maintain those buildings because they're making more money all along the way, and they aren't necessarily looking to, tear them down and replace them as soon as possible. So, that's what we mean when we say we don't want these things to turn into tenements, because inevitably that's what happens. And if you look at what has occurred over the past several decades, you see city after city imploding, literally imploding their 100% affordable developments. And instead, what do they put into place? They put in integrated developments that mix market rate and affordable housing units. Because all of the experts that I've seen out there say that the right way to do affordable housing is to do it inclusively. And that's what we're advocating for in this town. We're advocating for inclusive, responsibly developed affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Committeewoman Purpose? Committeeman Cohen?
Thank you. I would reiterate Mr. McDonald's comments that he made to Ms. Goel. I would reiterate those to Ms. Eglo. And if you know about the bench in the Rose Garden that can't be used, I would suggest that you put that in the SDL portal, as well as the broken bricks, so that somebody has a chance to work on it. I'm sure you know about that.
See this walking around town, but I have to point this out to town.
If you see it, if you see something, say something, right? That's the mechanism. So I would suggest you do that.
Thank you. Committeeman Stoll?
Sure. To those speaking about the affordable housing and a lift up, it's just disingenuous to say that that has something to do with someone's status. The lift up is the better education you're going to receive in our town. Why do you think affordable housing exists? To put your kids at risk, to put your kids in a better safety, less criminality position. It's to put you in a better economic environment. And you can line it up any which way to Sunday, but it's going to lift everybody up, as well as the community and the residents who live here to get that experience from what Frank was saying, is socioeconomic. So it's not right to sit here and mischaracterize or put this to a position that we don't want it. We just actually talked about a new business increasing the amount of affordable housing in this town. To say people like me will not be welcome is completely disingenuous. We pressed forward to have 2 new sites replace the 100% integrated site that also included the workforce housing, and it is the same lift up. And you know, I could probably see, Mr. Kirsch, in your life experiences, how it may come across as derogatory, but it's not. It's a good term. It's a positive term that's for the benefit of everyone in the town, including the constituents and the residents who receive those lottery picks to come into those places. Otherwise, why would it exist? You know, Mr. Kirsch, Ms. Frank, does it exist for the suppliers, the vendors, the developers, the lawyers who are all getting paid enormous amounts of money to build these and then having donations back to the incumbents? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what you guys are discussing. That certainly doesn't lift anybody up. The cost per housing per unit is significantly higher for affordable housing. Do you guys understand that? So if I want to do it in a private context, I could build it at probably a third of the cost, or maybe less, a quarter of the cost. So you got to understand that it's a big problem in New Jersey. We're not alone. We've joined an alliance with other towns to press this forward, but it is an issue, and it will lift up the entire community. So enough said on that. I agree with the SDL, as Mike said, to anyone who sees a problem. I'm a regular user of the SDL. I can put anything in there. Mr. Feld, inactive voters, sounds like it should be looked at if it's being looked at, so maybe it's something we should take up. Other than that's all I have. Listen, guys, drive safely in town with schools just opening up, and shop local.
I just want to add that the township doesn't oversee the voter rolls. That's handled by the Essex County Commission on Superintendent Registration. Just, you can Google that phone number. Mr. McDonald?
Yes, 3 quick things. Just for Ms. Eglo who had asked, the Gateway project is underway. We actually approved a firm, Spiesel, to do that small, very bifurcated portion of the gateway, particularly from sort of curb to edge of the rose garden. Does not include a rose garden, does not include the gazebo, but it is that. But that will start to be worked on and designed. Flood mitigation meeting. Thank you, Charlie, for bringing that up. Yeah, there is going to be a public session. I think the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee is going to put out a press release indicating some of the work that's been done, as well as this meeting that's going to take place in October. And that's all I have.
Mr. Cantor?
I have no response unless the committee has any questions for me.
Motion to adjourn?
A motion.